Hey, did you know that nearly 5.6 million workers are at risk for exposure to bloodborne pathogens?
Yeah, so? I work for a school. How dangerous could that be?
True. Healthcare workers have the greatest exposure, but teachers and educational workers deal with a lot of potentially hazardous body fluids as well.
Yeah, sure.
You don't get it, do you? All right. First, you need to know.
What exactly is a bloodborne pathogen?
Bloodborne pathogens are microorganisms that can be present in human blood and can cause disease. These pathogens include those that cause malaria, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and human immunodeficiency virus, the virus that causes AIDS.
All right, it sounds serious. But how am I supposed to come into contact with any of that? And let's say it happens. What am I supposed to do?
Don't worry. There are safeguards you can use to protect yourself against the health hazards from exposure to blood and other potentially infectious material. If you just follow some basic guidelines, not only can you avoid hepatitis B, but you can also significantly reduce the risk of contracting AIDS, hepatitis C, or other bloodborne diseases. Thanks to modern science, it is possible to prevent cases of hepatitis B. This can be done through a simple vaccination.
Get to the point. How does this exposure occur?
The most common way, besides unprotected sex, is through a contaminated needle stick. Chances are there are students in your school with diabetes. That insulin needle could be a hazard. But it's not just needles. You can be exposed to a bloodborne pathogen from any contaminated sharp object, broken glass, scalpels, or even pens and pencils. You also risk exposure through any contact with your mucous membranes, such as the eye, nose, or mouth. If you touch a contaminated surface, a bloodborne pathogen could enter your body simply by rubbing your eye or touching your nose, something you don't even think about.
Whoa, wait a second. What exactly can I be contaminated by? And what is this other potentially infectious material?
Other potentially infectious material includes mostly body fluids such as semen and vaginal secretions, but also internal fluids like spinal fluid or any body fluid that is visibly contaminated with blood. Besides that, there are extreme things like tissue and organ cultures containing HIV or hepatitis. You're most likely to find these in a medical setting, though. Body substances like urine, stool, nasal secretions, or vomit aren't considered dangerous unless they have visible signs of blood.
The key to protecting yourself is having a plan.
The first thing to remember in protecting yourself against bloodborne pathogens is to use what the Centers for Disease Control calls standard precautions. Treat all human blood and other potentially infectious material as if they are infectious. That means all of it. I know you work in a school and I know you love your students. All right, well, most of them anyway. The point is, you have no way of knowing if any of them might already be infected.
No. Here, put your nose right here. Make it slow. Wait, did you guys see what happened?
No.
All right, come on, let's get you cleaned up. You guys, y'all go ahead and play, okay?
Okay.
Connor, why don't you sit right here? You okay? I'm gonna get some paper towels and clean you up, okay?
In any situation where there's a potential for contact with blood, the following precautions should be taken. Whoa, wait! Always use personal protective equipment, or PPE. This is specialized clothing or equipment that should be provided to you by your employer for protection against infectious materials.
Whoa, that sounds serious. What does PPE look like? Plastic gloves? That's it?
Well, personal protective equipment can range from anything from gowns to face shields. In this case, yeah, gloves.
Put it on your nose. Hold it flat, keep the pressure on.
The point is, PPE is simple to use, and it could save your life. Always wear gloves when you even think that there may be hand contact with blood or other potentially infectious material. Remember to replace gloves if they become torn or punctured. If you can't find gloves, make sure you find a barrier. Even a trash bag will do. You can use utility gloves that can be washed and decontaminated for reuse, but they should be discarded immediately if they show any signs of cracking, peeling, tearing, puncturing, or deterioration. The key to removing your gloves is dirty to dirty, clean to clean. This means contaminated surfaces only touch other contaminated surfaces. Your bare hand, which is clean, only touches clean areas inside the other glove. Here, let's take a look. Take hold of the first glove at the wrist, fold it over and peel it back, turning it inside out as it goes. Once the glove is off, hold it with your gloved hand. To remove the other glove, place your bare fingers inside the cuff without touching the outside of the glove. Peel the glove off from the inside, again turning it inside out as it goes, and use it to wrap up the other glove.
Got it.
Remember to immediately remove your PPE and dispose of it properly, especially if it's become contaminated. And do it before leaving the area. Don't risk spreading the exposure. Whoa, wait a second.
What?
You can't just throw sharps into the same receptacle.
Sharps?
Any sharp object has a potential danger to cause injury, and they're even more dangerous if they're already contaminated. Broken glass, scalpels, diabetic syringes, or even pens and pencils could become a contaminated exposure risk. Engineering controls like a sharps container will keep them isolated and prevent further injury.
So where am I supposed to put this?
Contaminated sharps should be discarded immediately in containers that are closable, puncture-resistant, labeled, or color-coded, as well as leak-proof on the sides and bottom.
Work practice controls are actions that reduce the likelihood of exposure by changing the way a task is performed.
It's as simple as this. Never pick up contaminated broken glass by hand. Always use mechanical means such as a brush and dustpan. Just think and be careful. Don't push down overflowing garbage into trash cans. You never know if there's a contaminated sharp waiting to cut you. When you carry a bag of trash, always hold it away from your body to avoid getting punctured in the legs. Good job.
Me? Thank you.
If any surface or object has been contaminated, it must be cleaned with an appropriate disinfectant, such as a diluted bleach solution.
Anything else?
It may sound simple, but basic hand washing remains a fundamental element of infection control, especially since gloves may not provide complete protection against bloodborne pathogens.
I think I know how to wash my hands.
A little technique never hurt anyone. First, wet your hands and apply liquid or clean bar soap. Next, rub your hands vigorously together and scrub all surfaces. It's important to continue for 10 to 15 seconds. Some people find it helpful to hum a little tune to themselves, like Happy Birthday. It is the soap combined with the scrubbing action that helps dislodge and remove any pathogens. Then just rinse well and dry your hands.
I never knew you had to scrub for that long. I thought just a few seconds was fine.
I'm afraid not. Just remember, whenever you come in contact with blood or other potentially infectious material, always wear gloves and always wash your hands as soon as you remove them.
Got it.
Now that you've heard all you can do to protect yourself from an exposure, what do you do if an exposure actually occurs? First, don't panic. Most exposures do not result in disease transmission, but be safe and wash the exposed area with soap and water. If blood or other potentially infectious material has been splashed onto your face or any open cut or abrasion, flush the exposed area with water. If any contaminated substance gets in your eyes, irrigate your eyes with water or saline. Then report the exposure. It's important for your school to keep accurate records of any occurrence.
Let's fill this out first.
You should see a doctor as soon as possible after an exposure, preferably within 24 hours and no later than 7 days. You have to assume that any blood could actually be infectious. Now that you're aware of the dangers of bloodborne pathogens, you know how important it is to reduce your risk of exposure. It's unfortunate that you have to be aware of hepatitis and HIV in schools. However, the recommendations you've been given are really quite simple in comparison to how dangerous the contamination could be. Using precautions consistently, even when it seems unnecessary, and following the proper steps after an exposure could save your life, or the life of another educator, or another child. It's up to you.